In fact, back in 2015, I wrote an article for The Hill that went super viral, and it was about violence exploding in the left wing. And at the time, this article was mocked by leftists and by the mainstream media. They were laughing about this idea that, the leftists would, encourage political violence against, people who don't share their values. But it was actually predictable to see it leading here. Starting back in 2014, 2015, you had Democrats, high up Democrats, insinuating that people right of center, especially Trumpian figures, were Hitlerian, fascists. And then in 2017, Steve Scalise was shot at the congressional baseball game. You had high-profile right-wingers like Ted Cruz and Sarah Huckabee Sanders being heckled out of public places, shouted down. This kind of behavior escalated. And then when Trump was inaugurated after the 2016 election, there were 200 violent leftists that were indicted for committing violence that day. And then, of course, it just got worse from there to the crescendo when Donald Trump himself had an assassination attempt against him. And now this, Charlie Kirk assassinated in cold blood. It is sickening. And there is a culture of violence on the left. This is a problem. And our media and figures on the left need to do something about it, need to recognize it, and they need to stop now before more people get killed.
Well, sickeningly, Kristin, on the left-wing MSNBC, within hours of this assassination, there were people actually saying that Charlie Kirk effectively had this coming. Have a look.
He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
That is outrageous. That is the opposite to what we should be talking about, and MSNBC has apologised for that. But I want to finish on this point then, Kristin, because Charlie Kirk was passionate about the public square, about our need to disagree respectfully. We need that in public debate. We need to have all the arguments, no matter how tough they are, but without violence. And yet his life ended like this.
Yeah, he was a champion for free speech. And unfortunately, the media has created this climate of hysteria against right-wingers. If the name Donald Trump comes up, they become completely crazy, almost crazed. And this rhetoric that they broadcast on their networks, it really can radicalize some unstable people to engage in political violence. So we need more free speech, we need more dialogue, and we need to help these people understand on the left that, just because you disagree with someone on politics doesn't mean that that person is evil. You can think that they're dumb, but it doesn't mean that they're evil, and it never justifies violence. This is a conversation America needs to have.